Good evening, everyone. My name is Angel Romano, no relation, but as I explained, our names did cross paths. I want to welcome you on behalf of the Bloomingdale Neighborhood History Group, and I want to thank the library for accommodating us as well. Thank you very much. To those in person and those in Zoom, we welcome you to what we think will be a very exciting and informative talk. I want to start by mentioning whom we are. I'm one of the members of the Bloomingdale Neighborhood History Group, and you can find us online, those who are not on Zoom, at the Upper West Side History.org website. And there you'll see previous talks. You'll also hear about other activities. For example, on March 26th, we're going to have a walk that you can meet in Strauss Park at 2 p.m. and it's a neighborhood walk. And just wanted to mention that. And also we have a talk, Stephanie, who's here. It's going to be on the 26th of March on this. It's only on Zoom at 6:30. It'll be Secrets of Shanasi, the Mystery Mansion of Riverside Drive. So looking forward to catching you there as well. I want to open up by thanking some folks that helped make this possible. One is Tanya Torres. She's an artist who helped us with the getting background on her friend Angelo. And secondly, Professor Rosa Velasquez, who was a lifelong friend and also collaborator with her gallery. Thirdly, J. Emmanuel Morales, he's a sound healer, and he has his book is called The Healing Forces of Harmonic Sounds and Vibrations. So if you haven't seen this book, I suggest that you look into it. And last but not least, the person who helped connect us with them is my dear friend Lisette Colon, who has been an administrator at CUNY in the Bronx for many years, and she helped instigate this program and motivate us to look further into this wonderful human being, Angelo Romano. What's going to proceed is a very rich discussion that's in hybrid in the sense that there'll be folks who are in person that you'll hear from, and you'll also able to see some recordings that we made in the field with some of his friends whom I mentioned. In our journey of Angelo Romano's work and life, the more we learned, the more there is to learn. So what really came to light is this is really the beginning of a chapter, and we hope that there's someone out there who could make this a doctoral dissertation. He's a local artist, an outside artist, but he deserves and merits much more study. And I met Angelo, I should say, 30 years ago, and partly because of similar names. It was at the Taller Latinoamericano, which was a center on 104th and Broadway that was directed by Bernardo Palombo, another luminary that has also left us too soon. And there, Angelo and I spoke, and I said, all I have to do is add two O's to my name, Angel or Angel, and make it Angelo, and Roman, I can make it Romano, and we'll have the same name. And we bonded over that, and he invited me to be one of the artists. This is 1997, my friend and I, to join him at the Colombian consulate, and there were over 50 artists that were each asked to paint angels. So as you'll see, Angelo was fascinated with angels, and the folks who were here in person who came in, they were, I guess, gifted by some angel tiles that he made thousands and thousands of, and he embedded in trees, and we'll hear more about that. Now, in the course of our journey, what I learned was that his original name was actually Angel Roman, and he added the O's himself, but he never told me that part of the story. So that was a lovely lesson to learn. Angel was born in Madrid in 1933. I think I'm going to move the slide to. And he left home at 23 years old. In 1965 to 68, he worked as a sailor in the Brazilian Merchant Marine. So he traveled throughout England, Italy, Africa, Mexico, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Venezuela, Peru, Uruguay, Bolivia, Brazil, and Argentina. He decorated the ship Rosa de la Fonseca, in which he traveled through Buenos Aires, Argentina. He got commissioned to do murals on the Ana Neri, that was another ship. In 1968, an art collector from the United States noticed Angelo Romano and brings him to the United States. In 1997, he had the exhibit at the Colombian consulate that I mentioned. And in 2014, he was part of a celebration for peace in Central Park. And unfortunately, at the age of 83, he passed in 2016. I just wanted, many of his works were inspired by his travels and the people he helped close to his heart. So I just want to say, Angelo Romano, presente. And now let me introduce you to our next presenter, Peter Arnstedt.
Thanks, Angel. Was that? No, it's okay. I don't need to hold it for myself. So, my knowledge, actually, let me start with this. My knowledge of Angelo grew over 20 years from greeting him on the street. His participation and help in creating activities for Family Day celebrations on Amsterdam Avenue. Our exchanges were not extensive. My Spanish is limited. But for years, he was a quiet presence in this neighborhood who shared his passion, talent, and helped build this community. Before I met him, I saw his work at El Taller, Latinos Gallery on West 104th Street, where they held music and art events. He had painted the stairway, the door, and the entry of their third floor space. You knew you were entering a different world when you walked up there. After 1998, in my work with the local business improvement district, I would meet him on the street periodically. He was often pulling a two-wheel shopping cart and picking up things that people had discarded. He transformed them, and they showed up as art at El Taller or at the Red Oak, the West Side Federation for Senior Housing Residents, where he lived on West 106th Street. There were so many possibilities: cutting boards and clocks, shoes, a vacuum cleaner, wine bottles and detergent jugs. All of them were transformed. After 9/11, he made memorial paintings dedicated to all those who had suffered, in particular for those of the police and the fire department. In the back, you'll see some of his work. They were posted at the precinct and on the firehouse at 100th Street for years. Thousands of postcards were made of them. He told me of meeting a firefighter just before 9/11 and promising him a painting. Both had work to do that day. They expected to make it another day. He did not see them after that. In 2008, we started holding Family Day celebrations on Amsterdam Avenue during DOT weekend walks. He came out with his artwork, but he spent his time at tables with his drawings on paper and on paper plates that kids could color and make their own. He gave us time and energy with no desire to being paid for it. The Bid Family Days continued out on the streets for over 10 years. He would come out to many of those. During this time, I helped get him art and art materials to an international art show on peace and the environment in Central Park. Similar to what he did in our neighborhood, his work was on display, but he also had space and materials for children to be creative with his drawings. It was not something that was highly publicized in our neighborhood, but it drew people from around the world, including artists. He was known and was asked about commissions for schools, consulates, and institutions. It was clear that he had an international following. Around this time, he asked me over to his apartment because he needed to find places for his paintings. I visited him at the Red Oak and found his room had racks filled with his work. It overwhelmed the room. He had racks above his bed, below his bed, all over him. He painted some plastic plates that I could carry with me and show to people to introduce his paintings to them. One I shared with friends Reverend Kay Carpin and Charlene Floyd at St. Paul and St. Andrew United Methodist Church on 86th Street. This led to an introduction between Angelo and the Carpin Floyds. Kay, the minister, was able to make arrangements for hundreds of Angelo's work to be put on long-term display at St. Paul and St. Andrew, and for art shows to be held there with Angelo's work. This opened doors and walls at Trinity Evangelical Lutheran on West 100th Street for more of his artwork. We were able to get some paintings into school classrooms at PS 195, Mott Hall 2, Booker T. Washington, and the Beacon School. Often these had images of peace, the world, and the UN flag. One day in 2016, he asked me for help walking to the doctor. From there, he was taken to St. Luke's Hospital. Nurses there helped place his art and stories of his life in his room so that he was surrounded by those. He took particular inspiration from the story of Don Quixote. In many ways, he lived his life that way. He took what was available, what he had, and what he saw, and with that, he engaged the world. He transformed trash. He worked with kids and their families. In South America, he lived with people in rough conditions, in the streets and on the docks. His art reflected and lifted their lives. His painting was done with a purpose. I look forward tonight to learning more about his life and the visions from some of the following speakers and you. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter. So one of the things Peter mentioned was the work that Angelo did at our family days. And one of my earlier times here working at the BID in 2014, 2015 was helping Angelo set up his table at the family days. Behind me, you can see a couple of the paintings that I would set up and make copies the day before. And then to the right, you can see the table of activities with kids with coloring books and crayons and coloring pencils, and he would just lead that table up. A fun fact about the story is that the banner you see in the back, and you'll see later in the presentation, is a banner that I would be in charge of putting up into the avenue. And so this is a little sign to be able to identify where his table was and for kids to be able to find where their activities would be. And a little bit of backstory on how the book was created is Tanya Torres, who will tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, Angelo was a very special person. I met him through Rosa Velasquez, who was his best friend. I used to work in a local newspaper called Siempre, and Rosa collaborated with it. And as part of that, I would interview people. And I spoke to Rosa, she recommended people, and that's how I met Angelo. But then, actually, I'm sorry, I met him before that because I used to have an art gallery in East Harlem, Lexington Avenue. And Rosa showed up one day, just passing by, and I invited her in, and she was very excited because she loved the arts. And of course, she was best friends with Angelo, so she introduced him, brought him in. And Angelo used to be very generous. He would come and do an art activity for children. And I remember that that first art activity that I did together with Angelo was a painting story event in my gallery. And we invited children, and he brought a lot of drawings. and they were hand-drawn drawings. And they were all so beautiful. He could draw automatically and perfectly. He was I don't know, he was like connected. So I saw the drawings. There were a lot of the drawings left over because it wasn't such a big space, and he brought like a enormous quantity of them. And they were just there. And I picked them up and I asked Angelo if he wanted me to make a book for him because I make books. I make handmade books and also I make design books. So I took all the drawings and put them together in a coloring book because that was the original purpose. And I thought if Angelo has copies of his own drawings, he doesn't have to spend so much time drawing every single time that he does an activity for children. So I put together that book and it was titled Angelitos. And I guess that's the one that you saw, but we actually made two books. We made one with the images that he created about El Quijote. And the same style, it was a style, the same idea. He had a lot of hand-drawn drawings that were so beautiful and that were just, worth reproducing and keeping and sharing. And that time we did it for Hostos Community College. I didn't know the destiny of any of these books because they were just gifts for Angelo, for him to be able to share his art. And I'm glad that he enjoyed it, and I'm glad that he was able to use the books for other purposes. I don't know if it was like one book or he just put both together or how was it, but I'm glad that he was able to share it afterwards. And yeah, that's the story of Angelo's and I book production.
And for those of you who are, hello? For those of you who are in person, the copies of those books are actually in the back table over there. We later found out that the copies that we have here today are not Tanya's, but another versions of copies. And so we do have loose leaf papers of Tanya's, which is what you see here. And so, right here. So you would see pictures that would be representative of kind of the early works of Angelo that Tanya captured from his kind of scribbles on papers. And this is what we would use on family days to kind of recreate this coloring activity. And little did I know that, 10 years down the road, I would find out where these came from. However, that was something that Angelo seemed to have liked as he then partnered with Hope on the Upper East Side as well to create a coloring book, kind of educating people about different issues that he thought were important to him. He even partnered with another agency, the Diputación de Albacete, and that's more of a Don Quixote like kind of storytelling. And so this is what we kind of captured as we went through the narratives with different interviews, is that his work was used as an educational purpose between the stories of Spaniard Don Quixote and the students at Hostos Community College, and this partnership was really built and kind of developed with his friend Rosa Velasquez. And so Rosa Velasquez talk here is going to be in Spanish, so I'm going to make sure to put on some captions. For those of you at home, you should be auto translating, I think, but we'll be putting captions anyways.
La galería empezó como una idea mía y entonces seguida él también le pone sus ingredientes. Yo también me gustaría que tú sabes, la galería empezó como una idea mía y entonces seguida. La galería empezó como una idea. La galería empezó como una idea mía y entonces seguida él también le pone sus ingredientes. Yo también me gustaría que esto, tú sabes, me pienso en este tipo.
Yes, we're just making sure that people online can also see. And while we figure this out, Rosa's moment that you'll see here tonight is basically going to be a short clip of what was a series of interviews with her. And she ended up capturing Angelo's essence and partnership over time. She was one of his dearest friends that was able to kind of navigate the art world with him and kind of give him a spotlight in her, what would be her home gallery, and also be able to kind of cultivate these connections and was there basically up until his very last days.
De galería y así compartíamos.
¿Y cómo le llamaste a la galería?
Angelus.
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 Porque fue
Entonces
inspirada-
cuando él venía, mijito, que venía todo. Que ya tú sabes, a toda velocidad, siempre él estaba a toda velocidad. Tú no no lo veías constantemente con esa fuerza Dios mío. Qué para-
¿Te recuerdas de este librito que hicieron con, permíteme aquí,
Claro.
el librito que hiciste con Tania Torres, que era de los angelitos de él?
Sí, hace tiempo ya que
Sí.
ella me está tratando de llevar
Más allá.
más allá. Y bueno,
Enséñaselo muéstraselo a Michael para que vea. Fue un pequeño trabajo que hicieron con Tania Torres,
Tania.
ilustraciones de Angelo Romano, y era más que nada para que el propósito era compartir esos angelitos
Sí, compartir esos angelitos.
con los niños.
Pues él tenía una fiebre con esos
Y tú te recuerdas los angelitos pequeñitos que él hacía, que le daba a todo el mundo.
Eran unas miniaturas, miniaturas.
Ujú.
Lo interesante de él es, es que él buscaba siempre esa fuerza,
Sí,
ese poder en
Sí.
los ángeles,
sí.
ese poder.
Y una de las piezas que yo conocí
Ajá.
primero fue la que están hostos en la cafetería.
Es que de mi casa pasaron a la porque
¿Sabe cómo llegó esa pieza ahí?
fue Ángelo,
¿Fue Ángel?
Ángelo, Ángelo. Y entonces él enseguida, mira, esto se puede, porque entonces él me daba consejos a mí. Esto está divino para el colegio, para que hagas esto en el colegio. Él te daba ya la solución. Sí, pero me alegro que ustedes estén trabajando en eso porque siempre me quedé con la idea de que Ángel lo mereció más.
Ujú.
Persona humanista,
Sí.
tremenda
Merecía
humanista, y él
más.
era universalista. No se encontraron.
Pero bien interesante la vida. Yo a veces lo miraba y lo miraba y entonces yo decía, pero él se da la cuenta de los dientes. Yo también, que es lo importante, que diga una que otra palabra de él. Pero a mí lo que me interesaba es que la gente se expresara sobre él,
Sí.
porque lo admiraba, se sorprendía mucho de su trabajo, pero se quedaban así. O sea, también había algo de que él era intocable
Ujú.
en ciertos sectores. Y entonces, pues, ahí es que comienza todo a desarrollarse todo este plan. Y
Rosita, ¿tú te recuerdas aparte de de Quijote, en la obra de él?
y Quijote, pues, lo enamoró
Lo enamoró.
y lo volvió, lo enloqueció. Y ya solo se hablaba más de Don Quijote,
Sí.
porque era un personaje. Y él lo veía que ese personaje lo había creado él. Y ya era de él. Y no había quien le quitara a Dios.
Sí. Wow.
Entonces,
Imaginación, ¿ah?
Sí,
Que-
entonces
que-
cuando tú ves una persona así, dices, será esto cierto. Es cierto. Tú ves una maravilla, como algo que había aparecido así de momento, que había cambiaba nuestras vidas y todo, y él, pues siempre.
¿Por cuánto
La
Testing, testing. Hello, hello. Can you hear me? Okay. So she talks about a couple of things in that video, and to clarify a couple of those points, is she talks about his works that's at the Hostos Community College, and was an alum from Hostos Community College, so I had ended up actually witnessing this artwork before I knew who Angelo was, or it was soon after I had met him, and I think I had wandered into the cafeteria. The cafeteria didn't have good food, so it's not something that I went to visit often. But when I wandered in there, I recognized these angels. I recognized this art style, and I later saw that this was, Angelo Romano that had created this. She had talked about how he was the one who made it possible, and he had partnered with her about creating these beautiful notebooks and instructions to their students. She taught literature and art, so she kind of combined both of them and combining her art books to be able to have the kids be able to follow through with Don Quixote stories. The work that we found at the Hostess Community College, we later realized is actually pieces of work that used to exist at this downtown restaurant on 45th and uh, between 6th and 7th. And it used to be this Brazilian restaurant that had these beautiful murals up on the top and up the stairways. And when that building got demolished, they basically were able to salvage and save those murals and bring them to Hostess as a donation. And so that was actually a pretty cool little cool turnaround to figure that out. That this piece of work had moved from different locations across the city. And online, I was able to find an article that she had written back in 2016. And this is referencing a gallery that she had physically in her space. And this is a gallery that used to exist in her apartment on 116 between 1st and 2nd Avenue. She used to kind of informally invite her friends and artists to kind of be able to present to their work and have people over. And she then talks about how once people found out that Angelo had work in her apartment and had kind of an impromptu gallery, she would go and see, people would say, "Oh, you have Angelo's work, you have Angelo's work, let me go see it. Let me go take a picture of it." And so people were kind of amazed by the work that he was able to create. And this little network of artists on that they kind of community that created were, people that were able to kind of promote each other's work as they went along. So the next section we have here is Jay Manuel, and this is a friend of Angelo's were also another artist and author that worked with, he works more with sound vibrations and does a lot of his spirituality, but he talks about his experiences after post 9/11 and kind of the experiences that brought into Angel, especially with the little you all received, for those people in person, all of you should have received a little tiny angel. See if I can find mine. But those tiny angels were the ones that were located all across the city. If you grew up in Bloomingdale community, you would notice that they were on the 103rd Street train station, on the police station across the street. So I don't know if the camera can catch that, but these little things were kind of stuck all over guerrilla stuck all over across the city. And I then found out that it wasn't just our neighborhood firehouse that had these and the little plaque. It was firehouses all across the city. So I'll let Jay talk a little bit more about it.
Another important moment of Angelo that I remember was when 9/11, which was a very major event that caused a lot of changes to humanity. I was able to see it from my terrace when the second plane hit. Angelo painted. For example, many in my neighborhood, we have a fire department, just 1 block and a half firehouse, just 1 block from my building. And 8 of those people, there were about 10 that went in the truck. They didn't come back. The pieces. Angelo did tributes through his painting to all the people that suffered the incident or the catastrophic of the 9/11. And he also, where he used to live in 85th Street, it was a fire department in front. He made an overpaint and it was there for many years. I haven't been in that area for a long time, but it should be there. Many of his painting tribute he painted fires, small naive figures of man putting the fire down, even in the waters. He put all this in different fire department, and they were received and they were honored. And that was one of his way also to express, in a tragic moment, we express the dedication of this man who went there, gave their life to save others. That was a very important moment also of through his art that he did all this painting for the fire department houses for different places in Manhattan. Also, it's so much to talk.
And in the picture here above, you can see some of the work that Angelo referenced earlier in the talk. In the far left is one of the, in the middle is one of the murals that's currently living at Hostos and might be replaced in the near future, but we'll find out more about that. Towards the left is a copy or another version of the banner of an angel, which stands to be about 8 to 10 feet tall. If you can see it in the back corner, there's one displayed out there. And to the right is actually a plaque of what Jay was talking about. So once 9/11 happened, he kind of was inspired to create as many angels as possible, to distribute them to as many firehouses as possible, almost as a way to protect or push away from what he had premonitions of bad omens happening. And so he kind of pushed them out to, as many places that would allow them. A lot of the firehouses and police departments saw them as tributes and were kind of, accepted them. Our local police department still has one, I think, inside. It's no longer where it used to be, but they still have it preserved. Same thing with the firehouse. It used to be outside of their firehouse up until 2022, I believe. And so these are things that he, shared with people around him to kind of try to preserve his message. Believe it or not, he actually did not like being called a religious man. So it's actually very ironic that he has his angels kind of roaring out, but he more saw it, I think, as a image of innocence, especially with the kids that he worked with. And so now we're going to hear Jay Manuel talk a little bit more about the esoteric kind of spiritual side of him. And so this is talking in particular about the trips that he would take with Angelo. About there's a couple of stories that he would tell when he was talking to his friends. And one of them is about his trips to Egypt and how that spiritually changed him. And I'll let him talk a little bit more.
Everything happened because the universe arranged it. The universe has a way to arrange things. Well, I have a lot of inclination to go to Egypt. And I said, we have to go. Angelo said, Jay, I don't have the money to go to Egypt. I said, don't worry, the money's there. I'll find out. And then there was a person who lived in my building. His name is Saki Tefi, who still lives here, who was Egyptian, and who organized a major cruise to Egypt. And he said, Jay, I have 6 seats. I can give you to Jose because I have to fill the package. I have a group coming from Pennsylvania with this guy, his name is Larry, who wrote the book about spontaneous combustion. If you want to come, I said, hold the 6 seats. And then I called and he said, how much it is? I don't have, it was at that time, not even $1,600. And we were going 5 stars. I said, Angelo, don't worry. I find the money. I'm going to go, you come with me. And then I found 4 other people that came. And we were in my group, 6 people. And then we unified this group there. But I always had the interest to go to Egypt because since I was a kid, I've been in pyramids, especially in Mexico, Teotihuacan, when I was 15 years old. In how do you call it? In Merida, Yucatan, in the Quintana Roo area. And I wanted to go to Egypt. And then I went there, and that was the beginning because after that I went many, many times. And I brought many groups. But my first group was with Angelo. And then we have, for the universe has way to do things. In the plane, when we were inside in the plane, there was this man sitting opposite to me. His name was Dr. Bruno Casatelli, a surgeon. I never paid attention to him. we say hello. Angelo was sitting with me and another lady friend of mine. We were free. And we get off the plane and we say hello and greet it, but then we have so many mystical experiences that I cannot explain because they are very deep. In one documentary that I'm going to do, which Angelo and me were there, and this is friends and these other people or the other two, where I start seeing energy also Angelo, especially in front of the screens. And then this doctor saw this, and then inside the pyramid, they opened it. And we went there the first time because we went there with Angelo 3 times. And one time we went inside there for almost 6 hours. But the first time we were with the group, and then I started making harmonic sound with my voice, and they were very, very touched and said, continue. And the echo, you reverberate with the words of the King's Chamber and the King's Chamber. And this gentleman was so touched, Bruno Casatelli, who is like my brother today. We connected there, and also Angelo connected with him there. And Phil Daniel Kumati, who was the person, the Egyptologist and the facilitator who had the control to open the pyramid. He was able to. And from that moment, Dr. Casatelli said, I want to pay for you guys to come to the pyramid by ourselves and climb the pyramid. And then in our return back from Aswan and from Luxor, we went to the pyramid and we climbed the pyramid. And the experience of the pyramid, when we climbed, it took 45 minutes to go up. And I have the photograph. There is can you stop for a moment?
Sorry about that. So, I mean, the sound kind of gets a little bit corrupted with the background ambulances, but the ending of the story here is that they go to the pyramid, they do this ritual involving sound and kind of reflection inside the king chamber. And throughout this period, they come out with Angel having this vision of the future and premonitions, or what he perceived as a kind of like a premonition. And the story here is that he went in with kind of like black hair, and he came out of this with basically almost immediately whitening hair. How much truth there is to the story is a little bit of understanding how much there is of kind of magical realism around his life history. But I choose to believe that, you know, this trip did have a big impact on him, and it did have a kind of this push to have him kind of deliver his message across to the other people in the neighborhood. This next video is going to be the last for the talk, but kind of wanted to bring up, kind of tie everything together, is that throughout his entire life and the time that he was spending here in Bloomingdale, he kind of worked to make sure that the neighborhood had, you know, was able to create as much art as he was. He was never really someone that charged people for the art that he created, and he always made sure that that was distributed to all the different places. So he made sure that local institutions were able to get some art. He was always handing them off wherever was able to have any. And even the one in the back was kind of a custom piece he made for the bid back when the Family Days was going. And you can see the stage on the far left, and it's actually the introductional picture that we saw here. And his table is on the far right. So that's a reflection of the Family Days, of where he spent a lot of his Septembers kind of tabling and kind of figuring that out. And this last portion is a little bit about the after his death and how Jay kind of uses that to commemorate him and how he remembers him going, you know, beyond the grave.
One of the most strategic areas that we really love and we associated with Egypt, of course, was the Cleopatra's Needle in Central Park, between 81st behind the Metropolitan Museum, which I go there still today. I go almost once a week because it's a center that I get so much. That was the center of inspiration for Angelo. And we used to meet there. He said, yeah, I'm here. Then one of my sports is bicycling and also walking. I take my bicycle and I met him in 20 minutes. I made it into 81st and to Central Park. And I met with Angelo there, which he was doing paintings and looking at the obelisk. One time we were looking together, and we saw these lights, very, very peculiar, you know. And also one time, an eagle stopped in the top of the needle. He started to draw in it, you know. But anyway, that was like the most culminant place for us to go and chat and relax and meditate. And he has so many anecdotes of things that happened to him while he was around there that I cannot mention now because they were really, I had to be writing down because it sounds like, you know, like science fiction. But anyway, that was a very important place for Angelo and me. And then when he passed away, I did a ceremony with my friends there, and we called him there because actually, when you go to the obelisk, it's made of granite. It's almost 10-story high, and it was one of the most important obelisks that was in Luxor. I did research about it, and it was donated here with the town of Kennedy. And it holds so much energy. And granite had the particularity that when you do sound, it amplifies. Project sound, the sound diffused, very powerful. And Angelo saw me many times with him doing sounds there. We went right into the obelisk, which is not long. We sit down right there and start doing chantings and and you know, and he was very, very touched by that. And even if I wasn't there, he used to go there a lot because he used to live in 85th Street. It was just a few blocks from him coming, you know, that was his place for relaxing, for meditating, to connect. Also, the obelisk was surrounded with trees, and it's always, and with this tree that comes in the summer, the cherry blossom. It's beautiful when you are in the cherry blossom. There were many needles, nests of birds, and we go and see them without touching them. And he was so inspired by that. But anyway, that was the special place where he used to go and meditate and also paint his small angels that he diffused around. Going back to the obelisk, we did a ceremony there for him. We felt his energy. I mean, in every time today when I go there, I feel his energy there. And it brings me joy because he was, as I mentioned before, a very silent man. Always has a smile. Very simple person. He would be happy with anything. You gave him whatever thing, he never complained to anything. He was so in touch with the beauty of nature and humanity that he was happy with it. I never hear Angelo complaining about anything, you know. But the obelisk was, and for me today, is one of the most important places in New York, and it really holds energy. I don't research. I go every month. I go 3 or 4 times. I walk from here or take my bicycle, and I can deny every time I go, I can't forget Angelo because that was also his place that he used to frequent, and he did many of his work.
Can you hear me? Hello? Okay. Yeah, so it's important to see. I mean, it was kind of amazing to see that the obelisk, the Cleopatra's Needle, was kind of this important space for not just Angelo, but his friends and community. And for those of you who don't know the story about Cleopatra's Needle and how it traveled through Bloomingdale, you should see our previous video on it. But as we wrap up tonight, and I think as we start putting away our art papers in the background, I will take a couple of questions from the room, and also if we have time, people online. But yes. So J. Manuel was sitting on the question is, who did the painting behind J. Manuel on the green couch? And that is actually Tanya Torres, I believe. So Tanya Torres, being the first person that we showed talking, is kind of like one of their friends, and she did a lot of paintings that were inspired by the Virgin Mary, and kind of also working with Angelo's like inspiration on primary colors, but her works are more about Virgin Mary and reproduction and kind of womanhood. But that's the painting that was hanging in the background. Yeah. Oh, just in case people wanted to know, these are a couple of his art places where he's been in the latter part of this. You can see the Trinity Lutheran has a couple of his art pieces inside the chapel in the sanctuary. Same thing with Hostess Community College at their lunchroom, and the St. Paul and St. Andrews also has a couple of them. I'm not sure if they're up but Peter would know. Okay, so some of them are up. Yes, Trinity Lutheran is a church right next to us at the library. They actually started doing a sale to a fundraise, and it's kind of what inspired this talk to come out of this. Yeah, so Nancy? So the question is, can we speak about the fish here? Actually, this is a good question. So Angelo kind of had a couple of stages in his life. There is a lot of the work that he had in Brazil and South America involving the sex workers that were in that area. And so you can see here, some of them are listed here. And so it was more of this like depiction of what he saw and witnessed there. As you know, he picked up a lot of the mediums that he worked with out of the sidewalks or corners or secondhand things. So this might have been, another fish for something else, and he just repainted it. A lot of the other things that you'll see in the background, like you'll see in other parts of his work, are sometimes he just grabbed a light bulb or it was stones that were glued together and then painted together. And so he does a lot of the primary work here. And I found out that his medium here is actually just house paint. So house paint is very flat, and so it works with the style of art that he does. Any questions? Last question. Yes. We have not. So we are doing the more of this. We were trying to put together the storytelling for this talk. The other part of this is that we're working with Rosa Torres. She's the one who's kind of inherited most of the art from him. And the idea is that we would be able to lead her and her caretaker into a direction of where she can kind of donate or, place these arts that she has. Her apartment is actually is basically a gallery dedicated to both him and to Tanya. And so she has artwork of both him and Tanya, and it's just kind of all over the place. And so, yeah, it's a great option. All right. And with that, I'll close for the night. Thank you, everyone.